I formed a company called Invasics, which sounded kind of scary, so we changed the name to InMode, which sounded kind of cool and hip. My co-founder was a Russian physicist, and we kind of workshopped through a garage the prototypes of the Morpheus and the BodyTite. We created a worldwide brand that doctors used to create what boomers wanted. No surgery, but a great result. We were a slow, organically growing company with really no investment. Very profitable for 10 years before we went public. But the aha moment to me was, wow, there's 80 to 90 million boomers in North America. And I realized, wow, there's 90 million people we can go after, not even talk about a facelift.
Welcome to Challenger X. I'm Jerome Dwight, entrepreneur and business builder with over 2 decades of experience in fintech, healthcare, e-commerce, and blockchain. On this episode, I have the privilege of interviewing my friend and co-founder, Dr. Stephen Mulholland, a true visionary who has redefined the landscape of aesthetic medicine. As the architect of the global non-surgical aesthetic industry, Dr. Mulholland co-founded InMode, now operating in 93 countries with a market capitalization exceeding $5 billion. And he also co-created groundbreaking technologies embraced by celebrities such as Kim Kardashian and Eva Longoria. Dr. Mulholland's influence extends far beyond his innovations. He has spoken in over 90 countries, inspiring and educating over 100,000 physicians and professionals globally. Together, we built Boomerang FX, a revolutionary practice management and digital marketing platform that has been recognized on the Deloitte Fast 500 list for 2 consecutive years as one of North America's fastest growing healthcare SaaS companies. His journey from a startup plastic surgeon to a global industry leader has not only shaped the future of aesthetic medicine, but it also empowered practice owners worldwide. I'm honored to share his remarkable story and our shared vision for the future. Here we go. All right, Dr. Mulholland, welcome to the Challenger X podcast. I have been waiting a long time to have you on this podcast. You are one of the pioneers in aesthetic medicine, world-renowned cosmetic surgeon, the list goes on, author of multiple books, founder of multiple companies that have become publicly traded, multi-billion-dollar ventures. I want to go back to the early days when you decided to get into medicine. Just walk us through how your early journey was in medicine.
Well, that goes back quite a long time now, Jerome, but I would say that I divide my life and career into envelopes. In the first envelope, I was a professional hockey player up until the age of 27. I played with the Calgary Flames and their organization. I played professional in Europe. I played college hockey, and I wanted to play pro. I wanted to make money playing hockey. It was my passion, and as you know, as a former athlete, you learn discipline, you learn leadership, you learn execution, and management, team management. I was always a team captain. But my backup plan, if I didn't turn out to be Wayne Gretzky, which was the case, was understanding when you've reached the pinnacle or the end of that journey and when and how to transition. Towards the end of my hockey career, I met an orthopedic surgeon. Medicine, specifically surgery, interested me, and I transitioned to medicine through the University of Toronto. Became a plastic surgeon, and that was then the beginning of my medical journey.
And plastic surgery sort of catapulted you into a different stratosphere. I remember in the 2000s, you were on TV, you were sort of the cosmetic surgeon for the stars, and you built arguably one of the most profitable and successful cosmetic surgery practices at the time on the corner of Avenue and Bloor, downtown Toronto. Talk to me about those early days of taking a risk, setting up your business as a cosmetic surgeon.
When I went into plastic surgery, I really had no interest or awareness of cosmetic plastic surgery, it was the 90s. And the 90s, in the 80s, cosmetic plastic surgery in general was principally excisional. It was scalpel-based. There was very little non-invasive. It was very taboo with the baby boomers at the time. You might do it, but it was quiet. You didn't talk about it. And there was no social media. There was no internet. It was all traditional print and broadcast. I did head and neck cancer reconstruction and head and neck cancer surgery for about 7 years for a number of reasons, principally hours worked, lifestyle. I decided that I was going to explore private pay plastic surgery. That was the mid-90s when I made that decision, which again, it wasn't a huge social swell in cosmetic surgery till about 1999. So like so many business decisions, timing. Mm-hmm. I decided for personal reasons I was going to borrow some money. So I borrowed about $3 million from Citibank on the back of a managed care practice that I knew I was leaving. I didn't tell them that, of course. And I opened up a cosmetic plastic surgery overnight surgery center on Avenue Road in Bloor. Not that I knew anything about business, but I read Business for Dummies. So that was my business training. Location. And so I built this overnight center. And then I remember going out when it was built and looking up and down Avenue Road going, where is everybody? And I realized, wow, I had no database, no feeder system, no head and neck cancer patients were going to come in and do Botox per se. And that was in Hamilton where my head and neck cancer practice was. So I realized right away, I had to start to build a brand. I had to let people know I was there. I was a good surgeon. I could do great facelifts. And I needed a different product, a differentiated product. And that was about 97. And at that time, I got involved fortuitously with a colleague in Israel that invented this new light-based product called Photofacial, which is a flash lamp that made your skin look great, and it was non-surgical. And that was one of my top 5 aha moments, that we can make skin look great without a scalpel. I was a cosmetic plastic surgeon, but I could bring people into a business where scalpel was the zenith of what they might do, an excisional procedure on the back of non-excisional procedures. And so I became a photofacial expert. No one knew what a photofacial was, so my first business decision was to hire a public relations consultant, which is a bit unusual. I didn't go to advertising, which was newspaper, television, radio, because I couldn't afford it. But what I could afford was a public relations consultant who at the time, and young viewers won't get this, would get me earned media. Think of it for your young viewers as getting an influencer that has 1 million followers. So my paid PR consultant got me on a show called Cityline, which I'd never heard of. But Cityline had a strong demographic with stay-at-home moms or go-to-work moms who want a morning show, and they wanted to look great, but they didn't want to do surgery. And so I came on that show with new solutions that weren't surgical. So even though I was a plastic surgeon, I realized that the real big market was non-surgical. And of course, in 1997, 99, no one had heard of Botox. Restylane, the first soft tissue filler, was just approved. No one had heard of Photofacial, and laser hair removal just got approved. So with those 4 things and microdermabrasion, I launched on this Cityline, which is a national morning show where I was the host plastic surgeon. That turned out to be a 25-year gig. And for the first 10 years, I was accessing boomers who in 1999 were turning 50 in big numbers. And at 50, you go, oh my God, like I'm more dead than alive, and I want to look great, but I don't want surgery. So I came to the market in Canada on a national show demonstrating new procedures that were non-invasive. And that allowed me to actually grow my practice, to stay profitable, and to scale into a vertical that really hadn't been talked about. So again, timing, with the right message.
Some of the true visionaries, in any industry, whether it's Elon Musk and EV, Jeff Bezos and e-commerce, know how to identify a trend before it becomes a trend. And you've been particularly good at that. So you see this opportunity in non-surgical treatments, essentially disrupting surgical treatments that you were doing really well at, right? So talk to me about that aha moment when you said, hey, there's a new vertical here, and I'm going to be the first to move into this.
The aha moment was really understanding the demographics and hearing Adam Foote and others speak, and I heard him speak at University of Toronto about the demography of where we were going, and boomers, me being a boomer, 1946 to 1964, and there was a huge purchasing power. They were turning 50 in big numbers, and how would boomers affect different markets? And he didn't talk about aesthetics and enhancement, but the aha moment to me was, wow, there's 80 to 90 million boomers in North America. We created the cult of vitality in youth, so we don't want to get old in that environment where all our self-worth or our projected self-worth is tied up in looking great. But they didn't want scalpel-based procedures, but now we had microdermabrasion, fillers, and Botox and photofacial. 4 things that could change how you look with a scalpel, and I realized, wow, there's 90 million people we can go after, not even talk about a facelift. And so I focused the majority of my attention creating awareness, products, and services around this opportunity. I was lucky to get connected with pioneers in Israel around flash lamp and photofacial, got involved in the genesis of a company which was called Syneron, that went public in 2005, which is my first foray and then into medical manufacturing, and not just seeing a vision of what procedure might work, but the capital equipment companies that build it and the liquidity events that come with those capital equipment companies.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about InMode, your latest company, incredible success, worldwide success, publicly traded. You are one of the early co-founders. Give us a insight into how InMode came to be, and you clearly brought the technology to the table, so maybe talk to us about that.
Sure. So my plastic surgery practice was taking off in the back of awareness on what was earned media. Television, radio, print, broadcast as the go-to plastic surgeon. My messaging was typically, especially in the early years, here's what you can do non-surgically to look great. Yeah, I do plastic surgery, and there's always those of you that are going to do a tummy tuck or liposuction or facelift, but non-excision was clearly the message. At about the end of Syneron, my Syneron journey was the company that brought photofacial brand recognition to the world. It went public on NASDAQ. It was publicly traded. I took those proceeds and I reinvested in what I thought was going to be the next big thing, understanding that my vision was always non-excisional. And so my vision was to create something that gave an excisional outcome, face and body, not just a photofacial, not Botox, not filler, but actually went into the biological matrix of our soft tissue, the fat, the supportive structures, body, face, cellulite, loose skin, jowl, double chin, and create a technology where a doctor could buy an applicator, plug it into a system, apply it under local or topical, and actually make outcomes, create outcomes that maybe they weren't a tummy tuck. It wasn't an arm lift, it wasn't a facelift, but it was pretty close. And that became the intellectual property around the Morpheus, Body Tight, Face Tight, and the Quantum. So it was based not on a laser, not on photofacial flash lamp, but radio frequency energy, electrical current, which we use in surgery all day long. Mm-hmm. But surgeons typically used it to cut, undermine, and create excisional results. So taking a concept where we can go from the outside in down to that tissue without a scalpel, or inside out and create tightening and youth without excision, and that became Morpheus, which became and still is the most commonly deployed energy-based device in the history of the world. In 2023, for instance, 1.3 million treatments, one done every 30 seconds. There's only 4 million Botox treatments, 2 million soft tissue fillers, and 1.3 million Morpheus treatments. So clearly it worked from the outside in. It created tightening, lifting, soft tissue transformation without a scar. I formed a company called Invasix, which sounded kind of scary. So we changed the name to InMode, which sounded kind of cool and hip. My co-founder was a Russian physicist, Dr. Krendel. We worked together on photofacial, on Syneron. He lived in Toronto, I lived in Toronto, and we kind of workshopped through a garage the prototypes of the Morpheus and the BodyTite, got our FDA approvals, and we were a slow, organically growing company with really no investment, very profitable for 10 years before we went public. But we created a worldwide brand that doctors used to create what boomers wanted. No surgery, but a great result. And so even going back to the mid-90s and realizing there was a big opportunity working with boomers on non-excisional solutions. It started with light and photofacial, went to fractional radiofrequency, Morpheus and BodyTite, and InMode became a multi-billion-dollar company on the back of that vision, that opportunity. So vision, right time, right place, having the right partners, Dr. Krendel and myself, and then bringing the right CEO to grow and scale that business, it really created the kind of company and brand that hadn't existed in the capital equipment space prior to that.
Right. InMode, clearly the unmatched leader when it comes to aesthetic medicine. Certainly Morpheus 8 is so popular, BodyTite and the whole host of devices. For some practices that are considering getting these devices along with some of the newer InMode devices, what would you say to them in terms of evaluating the opportunity to go down this journey?
Well, practices that are leaving managed care or have left managed care, I mean, they need a place, they need people, they need a product, they need a price, they need promotion, and a process. And so product is always key. The people to sell and position the product. And so when you look at different products, most these aesthetic practices in the non-managed care space, the cash pay space, they really need to have a four-legged chair. One leg is skincare. One leg is going to be injectable neurotoxin like Botox, a soft tissue filler, and energy. You need energy. And about 80% of all the sales are going to involve energy. And that energy can be like laser, or optical base, or radio frequency. And when it comes to radio frequency, InMode is the unrivaled champion of the space, bipolar radio frequency energy. And then you want a product that people have heard of. You can buy a product less expensive than an InMode device. You can buy a product that has a lower disposable cost. But if no one's heard it, you're never going to get the same leverage marketing opportunities. So the good thing about the InMode devices, they're well built. They're not the cheapest, but they never break down. Their mean time before failure is the lowest in the industry. And most importantly, you can market on the back of a brand people have heard of. People have heard of Morpheus. They've heard of BodyTite, FaceTite, AccuTite. And then they also make workstations with generic photofacial, laser hair removal, and other non-invasive technologies. So buy a product that's in demand, buy a product people have heard of, and then make sure its mean time before failure is low and that the ROI in that device is predictable.
So let's talk about the business of your business. Practices that are, clearly, there's been a wave or an exodus of managed care healthcare practice owners opening up private pay healthcare practices because of clearly the huge demand, but it's also very competitive. So what role does advertising, you've been at the forefront of digital marketing and advertising, as well as learning, have in building a healthy business? Yeah.
It's you hit on a very good business and adaptation decision that private pay physicians need to make. Like, I was there, I've been there. We leave managed care where you just hang a shingle, you're busy. You don't need to know how to run a business to the extent all you need is an office administrator, a little throughput management, but the source of lead generation is taken care of. It's called a referral. And you hang a shingle, you're busy before you know it. In fact, you have a waiting list, so you don't have to worry about lead generation. You don't need to worry about follow-up because patients going to come back and you don't even want to see them. You don't have to treat them well because they're going to come. And so managed care creates an acceptance that business is just going to happen. And you don't realize that running a private business, people have choices. They're spending out-of-pocket money. You need to find them. So you need a lead generation capability and a system. You need to have a process, a throughput, contact management point where you have excellence of that patient experience because they have choices. They'll go elsewhere. It's not managed care. And then if you're going to be successful, it can't be just transactional once. You've got to have them come back over and over and over. And so because I had to build an entire plastic surgery practice without a feeder system on lead generation, I was kind of fortunate. My first 8 to 9, 10 years was all traditional media, print, broadcast, television, newspaper, magazine. Then there was this huge transformation. Google met Wi-Fi, met a smartphone, Apple, met YouTube, met MySpace, which became Facebook, which became Insta, and then there was a digital environment. And so the last 15 years has all been digital marketing and realizing that doctors needed to find a patient, wow the patient with services, and then grow and propagate and retain them. And so the rate limiting agent to success for buying my InMode devices was the success of their business. And so another aha moment to me was about 7, 8 years ago, I wrote a book called Boomerang. And the Boomerang book was the concept that when you throw a boomerang, it always comes back. When you treat a patient that you've lead gen and cultivated and you treat them, they should always come back. That a lot of your income in this space where nothing lasts is retention and maintenance and creating a system, the Boomerang way. And starting to educate these physicians that were leaving managed care, it's not enough to have a product and desire, you have to have a system. And so Boomerang became a system. And then I gave that book to you and said, if you can build a software company that was cloud-based, because now we had a cloud and we had emerging AI and we had tools and assets, just create a business system around this book. There's a huge opportunity for that because doctors need private customer pay practitioners, need a business system that's simple, effective, profitable, and scalable, which is what Boomerang has done.
Yeah, our collaboration with Boomerang Effects, your vision really to build the perfect, most advanced clinical management software practice management system for private pay, integrated with digital learning, digital marketing and learning, was revolutionary. When you presented that idea to me, I thought you were overly ambitious, but here we are today with the only end-to-end unified system that marries digital marketing and practice management. You built one of the most successful cosmetic surgery and med spa practices in one of the most competitive markets in downtown Toronto. And you wrote the book on how to compete and thrive and win. It's called the Boomerang book. You have what's known as the 10 Ps. Mm-hmm. Maybe touch on a few of those, because those are essential nuggets, especially for a lot of practice owners right now who are early in their journey. What are you most passionate about with those 10 Ps?
The Boomerang way, the 10 Ps, I don't have a formal MBA. I know you do. It irritates MBAs when I tell them, yeah, I got an MBA too. It's called the Masters of Being Around. And that Masters of Being Around took about 25 years, but it's based on real-life experiences versus book learning. And so real-life experiences to me taught me that, man, if I'm going to make money, I better find patients. They have to find me. So I have to have a lead generation, so find them. Then I got to wow them at every contact point. There's only about 6 or 7 contact points. And then I've got to have a reason for them to come back for retention revenue, and that's grow them. So find them, wow them, grow them, find them, wow them, grow them. That's really how Boomerang Way was built. And like most physicians, we're good at metrics. So I can break down a problem, an unwell patient, into what are the issues with this patient, what are the measurable metrics that I can influence their outcome. And so I was looking for measurable metrics that mattered to a business. And I wanted to make it understandable to doctors. And so I broke it down into the 10 P's of management and marketing, not just marketing. Marketing might be 3 P's or 5 P's, depending on the business text you read. So you need a product, price, promotion at least, right? But business is so much more than that. So it's a people, it's a place, it's a product and a price, it's promotion. But now promotion became dichotomous. It became digital, organic and paid, and then internal and external, and then old school print and broadcast. And so making a reproducible, affordable way to find a patient within the construct of those 10 P's. So promotion became a very, very big part of it, but there's no point promoting unless you've broken down your contact points into awareness to phone call, text, or email, the entry, the greeting, the journey to the consult, the post-consult treatment, the experience of the treatment, and then follow-up. And so breaking down lead generation and then leading that customer through those contact points, and then retention management. And so that became the 10 P's. Now, when I wrote it, it was a decade ago now, there wasn't the digital assets to support a cloud-based practice. So it was frustrating that we could give them the tools, but we didn't have software that facilitated automating that kind of business strategy. With cloud-based computing, AI, and you coming in as the CEO of Boomerang and realizing, well, we can take Salesforce, meets an EMR, an e-prescription, and a point of sale, and an app, and create the entire funnel, this practice funnel, which is awareness to inbound lead gen to consult, consult to treatment, growing retreatment, cross-merchandising, and ambassadorship. We can make an entire software experience for both the provider and the user, the patient, interacting in a cloud-based experience. And so Boomerang Book became a Boomerang practice management marketing software company. And then the last element was consolidating how to make doctors better at the wow, which is the treatment. So if you don't wow them and you're average or mediocre, they're not going to come back. So you've got to get the best product in their hands, which is typically going to be InMode, a toxin, a filler, skincare in the traditional aesthetic space. And then we started to create learning assets, books, didactic webinars, clinical videos, ongoing support to ensure that they deliver the product with the best possible outcome. And then that became an entire ecosystem. Learn without software, software with learn, or both. And to my knowledge, that's very innovative. Nothing quite like it exists in the private medical space.
Boomerang has really built the most robust foundational platform that marries integrated management, marketing, software, and learning to really help the entire industry in private pay. And I know you are a big proponent of continuous learning, and in fact, the Boomerang FX Learn platform was, again, your vision. I want to switch over to the people part of the 10 Ps. A lot of the practices that we work with are hiring new people quickly, they're training them, and they're trying to compete, often with lots of well-established players. You were in those shoes 20 years ago when you were setting up, but many of the people that work for you then are still with you. They are extremely loyal. So what is your management philosophy on building a high-performance team, but also keeping that loyalty going?
So of the 10 Ps in the Boomerang way, people that work in your place to deliver your product at that price, to create a process and an outcome that is truly a wow, so you can set up the retention, that's the hardest P. So working with people, HR management, to me, I've always found the most difficult thing, because if you're a high performer, like most of your viewers are, physician owners, entrepreneurs, you're driven, innately driven, to be successful, but not everyone you hire is. And so first and foremost, I would say that pay attention to the people asset, because without people, you can't grow or scale, and the experience is not always you, it's the people in front of that customer. And so how to hire. That is a skill unto itself. And so it took me a few years to understand hiring. I'm not the greatest manager. I'm more of a leader. A leader has a vision, can share that vision. You're going forward here, follow me. And I realized I'm not a great manager. So I paid myself far less to bring on a manager early on. And I look for a manager who's got management skills, who brings that skill set to the business. And so hire from service. We're in the service sector. So not managed care manager, because they have usually bad habits, not customer focused, but retail. And so I look for managers who've worked at Starbucks or in retail, like the Gap or H&M, or somewhere where they've had to work with customers to resolve unhappy customer experiences, who understand contract law, hiring and firing, who understand what a P&L is, how to manage an income statement, and understand what cash flow means. And so bring in a manager who can manage people, a person that motivates, educates, disciplines, but also shares your mission statement, your value proposition in a culture where service is key. And so I would say that hire slow and fire fast. Make sure that your employees share the vision statement, that they're personal people, big, white teeth, chicleted, smiley, enthusiastic consumers of aesthetic medicine that believe in it, that you give them a affordable comp that's a compensation or pay that's top of scale, if that's your business model, but at least competitive. Make sure they're bonused on profit, either in the line of conversion or as a team. Make sure services are part of that bonus, and make sure that they feel part of your organization. So people don't leave because they're not paid enough. Pay them well enough, but they'll leave if they're bored. So help them be engaged. They'll leave if they're not listened to. They'll leave if they're not valued. And so I would say hire slow, fire fast, never stop interviewing, because the front desk team, if you got a great front desk team, they want to be manager. Well, there's only one manager, so they're going to leave for other jobs, which is a natural trend if they're excellent. But hire for excellence. Keep them engaged by services as part of their comp, bonuses. Bring them together in regular team meetings and listen to their input, make sure they're valued, and bring some of those ideas into the organization, and just understand that the people that you hire and bring in is the most important P of all the 10 Ps, because without people, your business cannot grow.
Right. Incredible nuggets there. So as a consummate challenger, we've had a lot of very impressive people here, but I think you're the most impressive guest on our podcast. You are a true challenger. You're challenging an entire industry. You've got a pipeline of new ideas and innovations. And I want you to look into the future as you challenge even the current status quo. You recently launched a new device. Talk to us about how you got that FDA approved and now it's hitting the market.
So my current focus is on ensuring that those physicians that purchase products that I've helped innovate have the most successful business success platform. So I think Boomerang is going to be the biggest comprehensive practice enhancement, learn, marketing, and management suite in the history of the space. A multi-billion-dollar company, because there are couple 100,000 and growing disenfranchised managed care physicians that need help. We're MDs, not MBAs, and we need help, and I think Boomerang's the best product. Now within that, what's the newest, greatest product? So Morpheus was awesome, outside in. The biggest energy-based device in the history space, almost rivaling the numbers that Botox and soft tissue fillers see. The problem with Morpheus is it goes down about 1 centimeter, but there's lots of collections of fat under that 1 centimeter we couldn't get at unless it was body tight and liposuction. Now liposuction is popular. Like last year in the United States alone, 1 million liposuctions. 1 million, that's more than gallbladder surgery. So for everyone that'll do lipo, it's estimated there are 20 people that don't want lipo, but they want a contour result that's deeper than 1 centimeter. And so there is the growth potentially in deeper fat contouring without lipo. Kind of like Cool Sculpting was, but it never became that. A side office procedure under local anesthesia or topical with no liposuction that shrinks fat and tightens skin. Cool Sculpting never was that, but it became a big product. And so in our thought leadership, Dr. Crendel, myself, there's an idea that came to him out about taking bipolar radiofrequency energy, which is what our specialty is. Morpheus is radiofrequency, BodyTite's radiofrequency, and put it at the end of a single applicator, like a single cannula, little local anesthesia like you might get at the dentist, stick our little cannula in there and move it around with internal bipolar radiofrequency deeper than the Morpheus. We call it the deep Morpheus. Yes, you need local, but you need local for a dental procedure. It's side office, and you do not have to aspirate the fat. We have now a pinch and a pulse count, so you pinch the area, you put freezing in it, you stick in our device, move it around, count the number of pulses, done. Takes about 120 seconds. And you can shrink 25 to 30% of that fat collection instantly. Why is that big? Because there are 25,000 people every day in the United States going on GLP-1, so Ozempic, and they lose weight. Yeah. It's a phenomenon. It's like 10 to 15% of all Americans are currently on it. And when you shrink, fantastic, your health indices go up, diabetes go down, all, except you've got these annoying collections of fat that you can't get rid of. So you've lost this weight, but you've got some stigma of a love handle or a little pot or inner thigh that 70, 80 pounds never got to. But you don't want to do lipo. You don't want to do a tummy tuck. Now, this new product that we call the Quantum is the Deep Morpheus. The Quantum's a great name because in quantum mechanics and quantum physics, which you probably remember from high school physics, is the smallest particle of energy that explains a phenomenon. And so the smallest particle of energy is this internal probe that emits this bipolar radio frequency to create the phenomenon, which is instantaneous dead fat that your body can mop up. Body has these little Pac-Men that can gobble up dead fat, and we kill just enough fat that you do internal liposuction, and you don't require lipo. So Quantum, to me, is going to be bigger than the Morpheus ever was, and it's launched at the right time, in the right place. Quantum practices can get backed by Boomerang and lead generation support, and the synergy of those two is going to be enormous. So I'm very excited about the Quantum, which is the next 3 or 4 year growth of a product. It took 1 year for Morpheus to get traction, 4 years to grow huge. This will get traction next year, and it'll be bigger than Morpheus ever was because people want that deep Morpheus effect.
The last few minutes of our show here, as we wrap up, I want you to talk about Boomerang. Boomerang was your vision for this new cloud-based practice management and digital marketing platform, but you're also a customer. You still have a very busy practice that you have professionals operating out of. You are no longer in practice, and that clinic runs on Boomerang. What are some of the things that you like about Boomerang, that you hold Boomerang to in terms of metrics, and just speak to audiences that are maybe considering Boomerang against competitors?
So when running a business in private pay medicine, you really need to be able to have a vision of your practice in real time quickly, both you and your manager. And so what are the elements of business that you need to be successful? You need a lead management system, absolutely. And that lead management system at the top of the funnel. So if doctors can think of their practice as a funnel, think of a funnel as a broad base into which you have prospective patients coming. You've got to find those patients. So you need a lead management system. Then they go into this funnel. And most practices, the patient gets lost, becomes nebulous. You don't know what happens to them. You have to track their journey step by step through that funnel. So lead to consult, consult to treatment, post-treatment to retention, coming back for maintenance, buying other services, and becoming an advocate and ambassador of the practice, and some loyalty apps. So the elements of Boomerang that are integrated, no other practice management has all of that, which is an AI-infused lead management system at the top that can be automated within the software. So unconverted status that gets automatic messaging through drip and nurture marketing, and then a manager who looks at these unclosed consults and treatments that didn't respond to automation, good old-fashioned phone call, and then turning them into app-based advocates of the business. That kind of full funnel visibility was never available and still isn't, only on Boomerang, to be able to track your return on ad spend, and then to have metrics within software where I can look as an owner, I can look not next week, not the week after, but 3 weeks or 4 weeks hence and say, okay, I've broken my business down into 52 one-week P&Ls or top line. Wow, we're not going to hit our top line in 3 or 4 weeks. I can go to my manager, look at the dashboard, tell her to squeeze that funnel. Means get someone on the phone, call all the unconverted Morpheus maintenance, Botox, filler maintenance, get them in the door for a special on what they're not going to do, cross-merchandising 3 weeks hence, and maybe that fills half of our revenue gap, and then go to the top of funnel where short turnaround lead generation on platforms like Meta and Google, TikTok increasingly, to close quick turnaround Botox, photofacial, Morpheus patients in that 3 or 4 week gap, so that my manager stays ahead of cash flow, which one of the most of lead generation like TikTok or emerging social media platforms. And at the end of the day, doctors are always going to judge a business solution like Boomerang based upon what am I spending for the subscription, what am I spending in advertise, and how much did I make? And if me as a doctor turns to Boomerang as a client and I'm spending, let's say, $50,000 a year through subscription and advertising, I'm making $200. My next question is, okay, if I give you $60,000 or $70,000, can you make me $300? And if Boomerang continues to be that granular for doctors with that kind of visibility, then both will grow together.
Mm-hmm. I think Boomerang, being your vision to be a business accelerator for private pay, has really become one of the world's leading platforms right now. And we're so thankful that you had the foresight to see what Boomerang's potential could be. As we wrap up, I want to look back, and I want you to look back, and you've built several billion-dollar publicly traded companies, industry-shaping technologies, software companies, media, real estate, the list goes on and on. You've authored many books. What legacy do you want to leave for the aesthetic medical industry and broader healthcare industry?
I will say that I've got a lot of time to continue to innovate, because I do believe in the next 10 years, my brain will be an AI chip. I'll have an exoskeleton. I'm going to live for 1 million years. So you better be ready to develop for another 1 million years.
Right.
So I don't think that at my age we're ever really going to die. We'll be sentient, sort of considerate, ethical AI chips and some exoskeletons. So I'll be Brad Pitt for 10 years, and then I'll switch bodies. But if I were to pass away, someone unplugged the endless source of bandwidth I need to be an AI chip.
Yeah.
I would like to be thought of as an innovator that brought clinical procedures and products to patients, distributed through physician providers, and then created a business system that allowed doctors to fulfill and execute on their vision to be private practitioners successfully. And I've already accomplished one of those, which is bring product, bringing that business system the Boomerang way to a bunch of doctors to emancipate them from the tyranny of managed care. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting is you are passionate about helping doctors be successful in private cash pay businesses. And
that's it in a nutshell. And I think Boomerang and what you built and the Boomerang way is becoming a beacon of light, helping them be successful in what seems to be, a challenging and frightening area of darkness, which is I've left managed care, now what do I do? With Boomerang, we give them a way, an exodus, like Dr. Meningis's book, an exodus out of managed care with a promised land.
Dr. Stephen Mulholland, thank you very much for joining us. We will have you back. We could speak for hours on so many topics. And we will have you back, but I want to thank you for spending the time today.
Well, thank you for having me back to the Boomerang offices. I don't get to Toronto often, but great to meet your team, to see Boomerang, which is really, I'm not part of the intimate growth of Boomerang, it's really what you've built, but to see the vision taking on shape and really solving a lot of problems for physicians in the marketplaces. I see them in different cities, are Boomerang users, and it's great to see that we are already providing a success vehicle for these practices.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.